Happy Wellness Wednesday. My name is Claudia Wong. I'm a nurse practitioner and the co-founder of Mindful Nurses. And welcome again for another Wellness Wednesday. So the purpose of Mindful Nurses is to help promote self-care and well-being for nurses with holistic wellness talks or practices that we share every Wednesday. So excited to have you here. Today I have Diane Murphy. She is an RN and also a certified yoga teacher, 500-hour yoga teacher, Reiki practitioner, life force yoga practitioner, and the owner and director of Soul Purpose Sanctuary. She's coming from Maine. She's zooming in from Maine. So happy to have her here. I know it's a little late over there. Diane has been, so she'll be talking about a path to connect to your superpowers. So Diane has been a nurse for over 33 years with over 20 years of that experience working in the field of mental health and substance use disorder treatment. She has been a practicing yogi for over 20 years and found that yoga and other practices such as mindfulness and spirituality helped her in her own struggles with anxiety, depression, trauma, and eating disorder, and grief. She now teaches yoga full-time and also offers astrology readings and spiritual coaching to help others find their soul's purpose, which is also called their DHARMA. So I'm really excited to have you here, Diane, talking about how to connect to our superpowers. What a great thing to connect to.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
You're welcome. So you can tell us a little bit more about yourself or how we can go into connecting to our superpowers.
Yeah. Do you want me to bring up my slides right now?
Sure.
Because I got a little intro there. Okay.
Sure.
All right. I'm going to share my screen and be happy to answer anybody's questions as they come in as well. So yeah, a path to your superpowers. This is something that I'm super passionate about talking about. This presentation is about how to connect to your own soul's purpose. I feel like I've been looking for my soul's purpose ever since I was a little kid. I felt there was always something that I was meant to do, something that I was meant for, that I was called to do. And what I didn't realize is that I was doing the thing that was my superpower back as a child. I just wasn't really grounded in it, and I wasn't aware. And we didn't really have the languaging to understand that I was really using my unique gifts as a child. So just a little bit about me. I am a nurse. I am currently not practicing as a nurse. I've been teaching full-time for about 3 years. And interestingly, I spent a lot of my time as a nurse wanting to leave nursing because it was stressful, it was challenging, and I felt that it was something else I was called to do. But I ended up practicing for over 33 years. And when I got into mental health and substance use disorder nursing, I really felt like I found my niche because I love being able to help people who maybe more marginalized or who've experienced traumas and whatever reason brings them to seek treatment. I just felt very honored to be able to work with them. Mostly because, I mean, there was some things there that like I had the experience in my family and relationships where people had mental illness issues and substance use disorder. And also, I was also struggling myself with years of anxiety and periods of depression that I didn't realize at the time were related to previous traumas, which we all have some level of trauma in our lives. This isn't a trauma talk, so I want to go into it deeply, but there's the big traumas. But there's also the little things that happen along the way, maybe bullying or being neglected or being told to shut up or you're not important, like what you're saying is not important. Those are little micro traumas little microaggressions that we experience growing up. So that's why, I realized that I had some of these issues myself. But I do understand now, as I, look back, how I came to the conclusion that it doesn't make any sense to try to distance myself from nursing just because I wanted to be a yoga teacher and get into these different aspects of healing, because there's so many things that I learned as a nurse and the experiences that I had that were so powerful. It really brought out my own superpowers of being a compassionate nurturer and teacher, and a healer and intuitive. And I love the nursing process, and that's how I utilize that. I use that in my own program as well, my coaching program, and how I work with one-to-one clients. So there's so many things that now I understand, like why that was part of my journey. So I also have a huge heart for nurses, obviously working that many years as a nurse, and just having so many coworkers. I mean, so many coworkers that are just brilliant men and women, hard workers, passionate, compassionate, empathetic, and just really absolute amazing healers. So I just want to honor all of them too, and really give thanks to being able to experience working with them. So the reason, one of the reasons why I do what I do, excuse me. So a little bit more about my story. I am a mom of 4 kids and a grandmom of 6. This is my oldest son, Justin, and this is me on my graduation from my associate degree program. I eventually went on to get a bachelor's degree, but he was about 3 years old in that pic. And over here, he was about probably 6 years old. And this was him in his late 20s, early 30s. I was working full-time as a nurse, and I had just completed yoga teacher training. And because I loved practicing yoga, I wanted to share it with everyone. I was able to share it with my patients, and they were having some really good results. I wasn't planning on teaching full-time. I just wanted to maybe teach part-time and just work as a nurse part-time. And I was literally planning my one of my offerings to students, and it was to deal with using yoga practices to help with anxiety and depression, because that's one of my trainings. And on this particular day, I was writing out my whole list of things I want to do, my plan, and I was really feeling the flow of it. And I received a phone call from my daughter that this is my oldest son, Justin, that he passed away in Pittsburgh. And he suffered himself from chronic substance use disorder. And that day was really a reckoning for me. I realized that I can't sit back anymore and hold back on the things that I'm super passionate about sharing, because prior to this, it was like scared to get myself out there, scared to, talk about this in a confident way, like how these different practices can help people with anxiety, depression, and addictions, trauma. Always kind of tiptoed around it and said, oh yeah, well, you could try this yoga breath for this, or how about a yoga class for that? With this experience with losing my son, I mean, I felt like I was catapulted forward onto my path. And I didn't know what that path was going to be. I just felt internally like this was the catalyst that I must step forward into many more of my skills and talents. I loved being a psychiatric and substance use disorder nurse. I felt like I was highly skilled. I always got great evaluations. I had great relationships with my peers. So I knew that I had multiple skills and deep knowledge, but I felt like there was layers and layers that I could share with other people.
Sorry to hear about the loss of your son.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it was very, very big loss for all of us, for sure.
I don't know if you know, actually I and also the other co-founder, Janelle Smith, were also yoga teachers and Reiki practitioners.
Oh, for heaven's sake, I did not know that. That's great.
Wanted to combine all these things together.
Yes, so powerful.
I relate with what you're saying.
So I just want to, briefly kind of talk about, since it is Wellness Wednesday, I want just to tie in, like, what is the definition of wellness? And, if you look up in a dictionary or online, it'll talk about wellness as basically having perfect health. And I think that's the wrong way to approach it. I mean, the definition of health in some places where you look is being free from illness or injury. Yet wellness has so many layers, and you can have a chronic health problem. Maybe you have like a, inflammatory disorder where, you have diabetes, but it doesn't mean you can't have wellness, because wellness is more, part of it is a state of mind. But I like this little slide here that shows you the 8 dimensions of wellness. And we have to look at all of these layers in our lives and how we approach wellness. This is one of the reasons why I really loved working in mental health, because we looked at the patient so many times from that holistic view versus like, someone's coming in with a fractured hip and we're going to focus on that hip. And ideally, medical providers, nurses try to be holistic, but we've all experienced how, we have our own medical problem and that's what they zone in on. And so many times there's so many layers that are neglected. And so this is an area why I really loved working in mental health specifically, because we were able to look at all these different things that were impacting the patient, the client, and how they presented with whether it's, bipolar disorder, or if they're coming in and they were needing to detox. So each of these areas in our lives, we can't neglect, because it's going to throw all of the other ones off balance. So, I mean, you can try to be a spiritual person all you want and just spend time just developing your spiritual practices. But if you're sitting around meditating all day and sort of just being in the clouds, you're not going to be in your body. You're not going to be able to do work. You're not going to be able to socialize with your friends. You're not going to be able to take care of your body, because you're just going to sit all day long like the yogis that would meditate in the Himalayas. So that's really not practical in our lives, right? So we have to make sure that each one of these dimensions are addressed. And these are places where we can really get stuck, and how, and some of the things ways that I work with clients in my program is that I can hone in on these different areas and set goals and see areas where they feel like they could use a little bit of coaching and guidance. Because I call myself a spiritual life coach, but I really address all layers of a person. So we might be talking one day about your spiritual journey, but the next day we might be talking about how caffeine is really disrupting your life and causing you anxiety and a stomach ache and insomnia. So it's never, we never stick to one thing, just working on the spirituality. So yeah, wellness, the thing about wellness is you get to define it in your own life. So you can't just look up in a book and it says, to have perfect wellness, you must have A, B, and C. And you could be like, I really identify with A, but I don't identify with C. So I guess I'm not going to ever have wellness. And that's just not the case. You need to think about what you would describe as your the perfect wellness scenario for you in your life. And that's why using these little dimensions, you can go around to each one and kind of think about it and maybe set yourself some goals and figure out ways like maybe that you have blocks that you're not able to connect to those goals and get them completed. So for me, what I found is, and working with myself and with others, is that finding your own soul's purpose or your dharma. There's many definitions of dharma, but the one I focus on is the one about your soul's purpose in this lifetime. Is that it's essential to living a fulfilled and joyous life, because it influences all of those other dimensions. You could be setting goals in each one, and then you kind of feel like you're walking around like a robot and really not having the joy come out. So yeah, it's like you're ticking off all the boxes, but inside there's like this, like, I'm just really not quite enjoy. I'm not really feeling it. I'm got a great job. I'm making great money, but I just don't feel passionate about it. I don't feel in flow. And this is why it's important to do a little bit of digging to find out what your soul's purpose is. And you innately already know, by the way. It's just sometimes we need to have a little bit of help to figure it out and hone it.
Yeah. And I also think just like sitting with yourself and just, really reflecting, taking
Yes.
reflect instead of just keep going on the train of life.
Yeah, we can just kind of get on that. And then all of a sudden one day we plan to retire, and then we're like, what was that for? Or we're getting close to the end of our life. And this has made me reflect a lot in my own life and my family, because I've had numerous losses. And each one of those losses was so profound. It really made me think about, okay, when I am here, do I want to look back at my life and be like, yeah, I worked those 40, 50 years at that job and I got the pension and I worked 80 hours. And yet I sure wish I had spent more time hugging my kids or taking care of my body. So that's why it's so necessary to find out, like, what is the thing that brings you that joy, that so that when you do leave this world, that you feel like, yeah, I did the things that really my soul desired.
And it's never too late to like change.
Never too late. Oh my gosh, never. One thing that I work with a lot is, brain plasticity, neuroscience, brain science, because I am definitely a very spiritual person, and yoga and spirituality, astrology, they're all super amazing to me, but I love the neuroscience. I dig the brain science. That's why I love mental health nursing for all those years, that I'm fascinated by the brain. And what is really exciting is that these two things are starting to be married now. Like, research shows that, science is spirituality, and spirituality is science. And we're getting closer and closer to showing how those two are connected. So for me, like, my journey in finding my own superpowers, like I said in the beginning, like our journey starts with the day we're born, right? But I remember as a kid, being the kid that always was super sensitive. I could feel energy in a situation. Like, I could tell if, there was going to be an argument. I mean, we all kind of get that intuitive, little pulse, right? That we get that hit. But also with other people, I had this ability that, I didn't even realize this until just like a few years ago, like, oh my God, that's what I was doing. But with friends and, even teachers. And then as I got older, like coworkers and my family and anyone that I was working with, my patients, when I was working as a nurse, I could really connect to what their gifts were. Like, if you could hone this thing, this gem that you have, you would kick butt. You're going to be amazing. So that was what I always felt so passionate about, my own personal relationships and my, working with my patients and now clients. I just wanted so badly for them to see what was inside of them, because I could see it there. So I got into yoga 20 years ago, over 20 years ago, and it was really a really rough time in my life. I was going through a divorce, and I was a single mom of 4 kids and working as a nurse and getting ready to go back to school. And it was all, my life just imploded. And I used to work out at home a lot. I used to be pretty fit. I never went to the gym because I always thought I couldn't afford it, since I had 4 kids and I was on a tight budget. But I had read how yoga was like the new thing, in the West, that everybody was practicing yoga and getting fit and the yoga butt and all that good stuff. But the side effect of that was it could really help your mood. And I was like, I'm going to try that thing. So I went to the library and got a VHS tape. And yes, that's how old I am. So I had a few VHS tapes that I loved working with. And I was just like, first time I did it and did that practice, I was like, wow, that was amazing. Because I could literally feel after one class, my little video class in my living room, my kids running around, like, I felt the calm come over me. And I felt like there was this displacement of some of that old energy inside me had left my body. I mean, it was temporary, obviously, because you can't go to, I don't want to tell anyone you can go to one yoga class and you're like, I'm good, I'm healed. No, that's obviously not the case, but I knew I was on to something. So I just kept practicing. And studying voraciously and researching and buying books. And then over time, I did my first yoga training with Amy Weintraub, who wrote the book Yoga for Depression and Yoga Skills for Therapists. And that's when I became a life force yoga practitioner. And that's using different yoga practices, some poses, but mostly breath and intention and mantras and mudras, the positions you can put your hands in when you're doing your yoga practice. And mantras are the Sanskrit words that you repeat over and over. That was such an amazing training, and that really fired me up. And I knew that I wanted to share all of that with my clients, my patients, when I went back to work. And I started doing that. And in some of the groups I would run, we would do some different breath work and things like that. And 95% of the patients were all like, oh my God, can you come back and do that again? That was amazing. So it really gave them like this immediate relief from whatever's going on, because you can use those yoga practices to still the body, still the mind, or you can energize by, breathing in different ways. So you're not always just like in this Zen moment. You can actually do breath work that, very simple skills generally that most people could do. There are some contraindications for some people, but there's some that you could just activate your nervous system, you're a little bit more energized, especially when you're feeling down. And then I just started really working on embracing and developing my intuitive gifts. I always felt, again, like I was this kid that just kind of knew things. I always had, when I was working with my patients, I would feel what they were feeling, and sometimes so strongly, like I didn't have good boundaries set up. Wasn't able to check my energy at that time, and I used to like feel everything they were feeling, so much so that sometimes I would just go home and sob. So then I learned how to like really set my energetic boundaries, how to work with my intuition and my different skills, those gifts that I call them, those intuitive gifts, in a more effective way, where I could still empathize, I could feel, and yet still set the boundary where I'm not taking on all of their energy.
And that's important for nurses.
Yes, absolutely. Because we all know what it's like to go home after a shift, and all you can do is relive the conversation with a patient or, a situation, and how we give and give and give. And if we don't put up those, not a wall, but it's more of this porous little circle that we could put around ourselves, where we allow a certain energy to go in and out. I mean, it sounds kind of woo-woo, but it's really like setting that energetic boundary where you can really take care of yourself and not give so much of yourself that you're depleted, because you're not going to help anyone if your well isn't filled, right? It's like a car can't run on empty. It's got to have some fuel in there. So I really started, we're all on a spiritual journey, I believe, from the moment we're born again, but I continue to deepen and deepen my spiritual practices and really making it personal. I would read some articles and some books and find out like how to go about doing this. But what I realized was that I could kind of pick from different things and do the practices that really resonated with me, and that made me feel more connected to higher power, God, Goddess, universe, whatever you might choose to describe that. But in treating of, substance abuse in AA, if you've got to have a higher power, and it doesn't have to be called anything in particular, but if we don't recognize that there's a power greater than us, even if you just want to call it energy, because really that's what it is, you can call it that, right? But we just have to be able to surrender to something. And another thing, I was always interested in astrology, but never really studied it until about 3.5 years ago. I really dug deep, and now I've added that as part of my own practice and also my offerings, because what I found was that, because I'm a Pisces, and I'm pretty typical Pisces, like on the outside, and very sensitive and intuitive, and healer energy, kind, gentle, all that good stuff. they used to say made a great nurse. Sometimes it got me into trouble because I didn't have those emotional boundaries set. But as I started studying astrology, I found out like there's so many layers to this, and it's so profound. It's like yoga in that it's thousands and thousands of years old, and many different, almost every single culture, probably every culture, had a way of studying the stars. And I practice what's called Western astrology, even though I do practice yoga. I am not a Vedic astrologer or Jyotish astrologer. Instead, I use the Western approach because we're more familiar with Western symbology, and the way I apply it with working with myself and my own students and clients is that I use it from that more psychological hero's journey. Heroes or heroine's journey, to look at the path of our life. And then that's how I find out as well, like how like our gifts, like the things that make us really amazing, show up in our astrology chart. It's that cosmic blueprint of our soul and our gifts. And when I used to judge myself a lot of times about some of the way my characteristics and my traits and my habits and my behaviors and the way I thought about things or approached the world. But I learned to soothe that and calm that through the practices of yoga and my spiritual practice. And yet, when I brought in the layer of astrology, I was like, that explains it. That explains why I do this thing in this way in my life, because that's where my Mars is or whatever. So I found that it's just so powerful. And then I started really looking at like, okay, what will the chart say about my path in life? Like, what am I destined to do? And then come to find out there's places in the chart where you can look at that. You can actually see your soul's purpose. And then the other part of this is layering in the sister science of yoga, which is called Ayurveda, and learning more about my doshas and which is the energy that each one of us shows up with. There's three, and one is Vata energy, which is the when you're thinking and planning and strategizing, and can be also like shows up as anxiety, nervousness, talking a lot, not being grounded. And then there's Pitta. And by the way, Vata is air, so very, airy. And Pitta is that more fire energy where it's like Mars energy, like very active, get up and go. You can get stuff done. You're like, it might be intense and kind of fiery person. And then there's Kapha, which is earth and water, which is very, grounding energy. It's people tend to be a little bit more like really solid and like chill. These are generalizations. I mean, there's so many more layers to this. So as I learned about the energetical qualities of me and what makes up my own constitution through the lens of Ayurveda, I was able to see again, like, oh, okay, well, that explains it because I'm very Vata and I have a lot of, mental energy, lots of thinking and planning and strategizing, but I run out of energy sometimes and get stuck in Kapha. So where I need to bring more awareness in my life is that Pitta energy. So I can actually get the tasks completed and not just think about them or lay around and try to take a nap or meditate through it. So I actually have to take action. And then finally, I have many other things in my life too that help me find my superpowers, but these are the major things and how I work with people. Finally, it's the DHARMA archetypes. And I've learned this through my teacher, Sahara Rose. She's a well-known author and she has a great podcast out. And her book on finding your Dharma was very powerful for me. And I'm currently doing a coaching training with her. But it's amazing. It's super exciting. And what I learned even more is that there are different archetypes for our dharmic path, our soul's purpose. And if you're striving so hard to do this one thing, but it's really not in your archetype, you're probably going to feel very frustrated, very challenged, and like you're never going to make it in that realm, whether it's a career or the way you go about your family life and your relationships or your finances. But when we learn about those archetypes, this is also not just related to our job, but it could be our job. But once you know them and embrace them and use your other dosha energy to be able to, think about a problem and how you're going to solve it, take the action, and then the kapha is the rest and waiting when you take rejuvenate. And then we start that cycle over and over again. The more you understand that Dharma archetype, the more power and agency you have, because when things come in, like tests from the universe, like, oh, here's this job opportunity and it looks super good in like maybe 5 of 10 categories that you have. But then it doesn't really meet the other 5 categories according to like what you want to do in your archetype. And it's very tempting to take the job that maybe has more money, but you're thinking, yeah, but I don't really think I'm going to enjoy that job. So then if you say no, that other opportunity hopefully will arise for you. Let's see. Oh, keep getting wrong. All right. So yeah, you have your own superpowers. And that's a cute little doggy. I sometimes when I see these PowerPoint presentations, I always see a slide like this. I'm always like rolling my eyes, but it's true. We all have our own superpowers, and you have them too. Each one of you watching this, and even share it with people who are non-nurses as well, because everybody has their own superpowers. And truly, if each one of us were living in our truest essence of our dharma, we would be in flow. We would be experiencing joy. Life would still happen. There'll be ups and downs. Shit happens, as they say, but you'll still come back to that essence of you that is your strength, your superpower. Like that thing in you will never go away as long as you're nurturing that and recognizing it and really working into it. So it's so essential that we learn these things about ourselves. And it's a crime really that we don't teach these things to our kids right away. We put them in boxes and say, you must get an A on this test, or you have to pass this to get into a college to whatnot. But it's like, if we really, really were wanted to serve the world, we would be teaching kids early on how to connect to their truest gifts. And then if each person in this world was doing this thing they absolutely loved, that's in service to others, whether it's being a mom and being that nurturing mom, raising a family, a dad staying home, taking care of the kids, a couple who starts a business, whatever it is, if you're in service to humanity to make this world a better place and you're serving from a place of love, you're going to be jamming. I mean, it's going to be amazing. You're going to feel really, really great. And when we're in joy, we're in flow, everybody around us really, they get all the benefits, right? It's like the little side effect of you being in your own superpower. They're going to feel your joy, and joy is contagious. We've all been around people who are like Debbie Downers, and I've been that person sometimes myself, has been the Debbie Downer, but we know what that's like, right? Energy is contagious, and it moves from in between us and in and around us, and we can catch that Debbie Downer. Or if someone's in joy, that's also contagious, and you want to be around that person that's super exciting and like in flow, right?
Yeah, I definitely agree. So yeah, that would be amazing if everyone started pursuing that at a young age.
I so agree.
Or art, or just be contagious, right?
Yeah, putting pressure on kids to succeed or do something that maybe you wanted to do when you were a kid or whatnot, it's just not fair, and it's not right. That was your dharma, and it's important to support them and encourage them, keep them safe, obviously, but to explore and be curious and just be themselves in every aspect of themselves and let that shine. So many problems would go away. Health care would not be looking like what it is. It wouldn't be looking such a mess, because we'd all be taking good care of ourselves. Because when we love ourselves and we love our life, we want to feel better. We want to eat healthy. We want to drink water. We want to take care of our bodies because we are so connected. But when there's that disconnect and we're not living that purpose, and we start to get into the negativity, limiting beliefs, and all those, just going down that rabbit hole, that's when we make the decisions that aren't so great about our health, right? Like we're feeling super down. We hate our job. We go home, we turn on Netflix, and we just eat a whole pizza and a 6-pack of beer and some ice cream. It's just like, we're going to act that out until we start living our truth. So it's one of the things that I bring the nursing process right into my coaching practice. Like I said, some years ago, I was like, I've worked as a nurse for so long. I'm tired of it. I just want to be a yoga teacher. I want to teach yoga all the time, blah, 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 do Reiki. And then I realized, like, heck, I've got over 33 years of skills, and I'm not going to ditch those. I can call in all of those skills that I used, being a nurse for all those years. And again, it's my empathy, compassion, my ability to have good time management, set boundaries, multitask. Although that's technically really, science shows that multitasking isn't really effective. But when I realized that I could bring my nursing skills and the nursing process itself into my coaching practice, it gives me a framework to stick to. So there's not like this unending thing that we just go on and we're going on tangents. Like, it really helps us to zone in on the problem. So starting with assessment. So obviously it's not a health assessment because we're working on your life purpose. So I'm not going to get out the stethoscope and check your blood pressure and all that. I don't ask you health questions except for like maybe just general questions on the intake form. And then anything that you want to share, fine. If not, that's also fine. But in the assessment process, when someone comes to coaching, they're coming for a problem. Like, there's something that they want to solve. They want to get to the end and have a result. And I love the mantra, name it to claim it. If you want to find out exactly what career to do, and you're feeling like the desire to start your own business, but you don't know what your skills are, and then say that. And that's what we'll do. We'll say it out loud together. And so that we can right away talk about like what the major goal is, what the major focus, that thing that is just shining so brightly that the client wants to see. And then instead of doing a nursing diagnosis, obviously I'm not going to diagnose anybody, but what I do is we bring up the actual issue to address. So we're not just going to focus on, say, for example, someone comes in and says, all the kids have left the nest. I was a mom all these years. It was great. I drove the kids back and forth all their practices, but they've all graduated now. And I literally don't know what to do with myself. I don't know who I am. I don't even know what I like. I know that I used to love to do art when I was a kid and a teenager and before I got married, but now I just doodle. I don't have any time, but I'd really love to open my own art gallery, and I just don't know how to do it. I don't believe in myself. So the issue to address there would be the block of not believing in their gift, their talent. So we identify that right away, and we say, okay, this is the thing we're going to be working on. We're going to approach it from all kinds of angles. Just like, you're going in to treat whatever, you don't have just, the one physician. You bring in radiology, you draw the blood, you take the whole look at the whole thing. We're going to come at it, the problem, with a bunch of different angles. And then of course we go through the planning process. So we figure out when and where we're going to meet and what are the practices they like to do. The other thing about when I thought I was just going to be a yoga teacher, I was like, yeah, but I also love energy work, and I also love aromatherapy, and I also love working with my intuition, and I also love, functional medicine. And so I used to think I had to compartmentalize myself, and I think that's how we even think, as nurses do, we have to compartmentalize everything. But when I realized I could just bring all of these skills in, these practices that I teach, So that I don't say, when you come to my program, you do this, this, and this, and you gotta like it or not. Instead, it's like, I've got these tools in my tool belt. Let's talk together about which practices are going to be helpful to you. Maybe something you want to try. You've never practiced breath work before. Maybe we'll do that. Mm-hmm. If you're not interested in talking about astrology, that's cool. We don't have to do that. But everything is individualized, just like individualized treatment, ideally when you are treated in the hospital or with your physician.
Yeah, and it's always good to do a collaborative effort. Otherwise, if you do a plan and there's no buy-in.
Absolutely. This has to be about the client. It's not about me at all. I'm only here as like the guide and the facilitator, and to educate, and maybe, there'll be teaching moments. Maybe there's times I just listen. Maybe I just say, here, do this one journal exercise this week. It's never about me and whether they like me or like what I say. It's just about like me holding space for them and then offering suggestions that they might practice. And I mean, generally everyone's going to be like, yeah, I'm going to try that because I'm ready for this. And of course the implementation, the accountability, if someone's coming in for coaching with me, they've got to show that they're doing the work. This is, we can't just think that we're like the law of attraction, like, okay, I'm going to pray for this new business of mine to take off because that's what I'm manifesting. And you just kind of sit around and eat snacks again, checking out Netflix. You've got to do some action, right? So you've got to be accountable to, like, you've got to take some steps to go forward. Otherwise, you're never going to find your path. It just doesn't drop in your lap. I mean, if it does, you're like super rare for that to happen. And of course, we finish with evaluation. So I generally do like a 3 to 6 month program. And all along, we're always evaluating, just like we do in nursing care, right? We're always evaluating, is that treatment working? Is this medication working? If not, I'll talk, see if we get the dose increased. Same thing, like, is that breathwork practice working for you? Did that journaling exercise work for you? How about this movement practice I suggested, or the book I suggested? Tell me about that and how that's helping you. And then if it's not working, we bring in something else. I don't put all of these things out there and say, try this, try this, try this, because it's super overwhelming. But what we might do is just choose like 1 or 2, maybe 3 modalities to work with together to see if that helps them meet their goals. And always, regrouping, revise, review as needed. Absolutely. All right, so I'm happy to answer more questions and chat a little bit more in detail. This is what I wanted to end with, is that there's definitely something inside you that the world needs. Like, we need you out there to be in your DHARMA, to be doing your soul's purpose. You'll be in joy. Your patients will be experiencing that joy, and it's going to impact them. Because remember, when you seek joy and you're doing the practices that make you feel better and just love life, remember, you're going to impact someone, right? And then they're like, wow, that was really infectious. So their mood changes. And then they go see their spouse. And now the spouse who was having a bad day feels that energy because the other person felt it from that other person, and it's infectious, right? And then they're feeling lighter. And then the kids, they're interacting with the kids. So the whole thing is just it's this snowball effect. So you're not seeking joy to be selfish. It's the best self-care that you could do for yourself and for humanity, is to be in your truest, deepest essence. And that is, it's within you. Sometimes it just takes peeling back the layers and someone to guide you and shine a light on that for you to see where your truest gift is. So that's it for my presentation. I'm happy to answer more questions. I can talk more about astrology and the DHARMA archetypes and some of the work I do. Otherwise, you can reach me, soulpurposesanctuary.com. You can catch me on Instagram through my yoga studio, which is Soul Purpose Sanctuary, and then at Mystic Nurse, which is my other platform on Instagram.
Great. And I put your contact information in the chat on Facebook, so people can reach you there.
Great.
But yeah, I totally agree. Like if your cup is filled and you're doing something you're passionate about, it just like radiates out. Right? It radiates out and has this ripple effect or snowball effect with everyone that you interact with. And it's amazing to be in that.
Absolutely.
And also the opposite, like if you're not feeling well and you're depleted, that also has a ripple effect. So
absolutely. Yeah. Just, your life is just feeling like you're just plodding along and like, what's the point of it all? Yeah, it's super, super powerful stuff. And I think that, not that you would do this, work with me to just become, like, maybe you do want to become a Reiki practitioner, or maybe you just want to love your job more, like whatever, maybe you're an ICU nurse and you're just like, I just don't love it anymore. I just want to love it again because I loved it at one time. We need you. We don't want everybody to come out and just be Reiki practitioners and just meditate, teach people how to meditate and all that stuff. We need people. We need janitors. We need people at McDonald's to be nice, and in their purpose. So we can be in that real 3D reality and just like, this is how I'm going to live my Dharma in this actual job that I have to be in right here in real life. I'm not up here meditating in the spiritual realm, but I'm, in the nitty gritty, down in the trenches, as they say. But then I can just, just be like, this is my jam. Like, this is what I'm meant to be. And it's super powerful. And if you really think about energy healing work too, like the energy that's leaving you is literally helping to heal your patient already. I mean, that could be a whole other talk, but that's really, it's true. If you learn about quantum mechanics and quantum physics, is that energy particle, if it's high vibe, it's gonna get out there into somebody else, right?
It could be something just, I can't really quite put words to it, but you just can sense like someone's like energy, good energy.
Yes, absolutely.
So even just being in the presence of someone with calm, collective, and like joy can be healing.
Absolutely. We've all experienced that when we've gone to the hospital or doctor's office and we're a ball of nerves because we're waiting for a result. But if that one person came in, whether it's a nurse or a medical assistant, whoever, and just said, hey, how you doing? And made eye contact with you, or maybe they put a hand on your shoulder back in the day when we used to touch people, you have a physiological response to that immediately. Like your blood pressure goes down, your heart rate goes down, your cortisol level goes down. Everything physiologically happens just by that response, that nervous system back and forth, that mirroring that happens. It's just really fascinating. And it's just, again, it's that, neuroscience. It's not just like, I'm going to be this energetic person, smelling like patchouli, but it's like, no, this is actual science. That's why I love this work even more. Like every day, I just like, God, that's so exciting that like these two things are coming together. It's just super cool.
Yeah, that's how I feel also. Merging those worlds and then helping patients with that, or people, clients with that. Wow. Can you talk a little bit more about the Dharma archetypes?
Yeah, so hoping I can remember them all. So my two major ones are nurturer and healer. And when I compared it to my chart, my astrological chart, exact. It was completely exact. There's the visionary, who's more like creating things that the world needs to have. There's the entrepreneur, who's starting businesses. There's the warrior, who stands up for people. I mean, I have warrior in me too, like standing up for the downtrodden and the marginalized, and helping society be a better place. Activist, who is definitely out there in the trenches, going door to door, getting signatures. There's the artist, You know, so we need people who are artists. We need music. Music is healing. We need art. It's beautiful. You know, we need all of those things. We need chefs. Otherwise we'd be eating boring food every day. That you're an artist, you know, you're a chef. I feel like there's probably something else too that I'm missing, but I think there's like 7 or 8 major DHARMA archetypes, but you can actually look that up on Sahara's website. SaharaRose.com. I am SaharaRose.com.
That's great. Well, I really love how you integrate lots of different like teachings and things that you found beneficial. It's really a holistic view on the person. And
I just feel like that's the only way to go. That's the only way to go. Otherwise we miss something, you know.
Exactly. Yeah, there be something deep inside that's not like being fulfilled or.
Mm-hmm. The other thing I want to say is just quickly is that like we can work consciously in our conscious mind all we want to, like do all these things, but until we let the subconscious become conscious, we're going to be stuck in old behaviors. So that's another thing that I work with people doing, is identifying those subconscious blocks. And so that's why part of that process is like, what is in your way? What belief is it that's in the way? And it's that, you know, when I was 6, I was told, you know, to shut up, that I shouldn't, you know, talk, that whatever I say was stupid. So throughout your whole life, there's that programming that like, you're not going to speak up. And even though consciously you might be like, I'm going to try debate team, and I'm going to try, you know, all of public speaking, and it's still like, your throat chakra is stuck, you know, just can't get out there. But that's that thing that we need to go back and just reprogram that, and just, you know, rewire the brain to recognize that that is not a truth.
Yeah, the mind can play tricks on us and
all the time. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Diane. This is great. I love this.
Thank you.
View of the person and finding the soul's path and purpose. Very deep and meaningful work, and I'm sure your clients definitely feel that, and you know, reach a great level of fulfillment, searching for it and taking steps to improve their lives. So, thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me. Take care, everybody.
Thank you everyone for joining in or watching in later, and happy Wellness Wednesday, whatever wellness means to you. Take care.
Bye-bye.